He was always present, positive, and wanted to make every day a celebration. Papa Doc coined a lot of phrases that I will carry with me for the rest of my life. From champion eater, Nicole, superstar, Jesse, not bad, number one, c'est la vie, c'est la vie, and one of his many Yiddish expressions. He's always had a clever reply, and I know he will live on through us repeating them. I am so lucky to have had him as my neighbor the past few years. I will miss walking around back to find him soaking up the sun with Millie. I will miss him offering me a glass of wine at 2 p.m. I will miss our Wednesday dinners and our Sunday brunches. I will miss his funny sense of humor and his unconditional love. Thank you, Papa Doc, for being the best neighbor, the best vice president, and the best grandpa. I will miss you so much. Thank
What's
you.
your grandpa name?
Papa Doc.
Papa Doc. I love that.
Yeah.
I thought that's what you were saying. I was like, that's a great one. Cameron, yeah. I wasn't sure if you were changing orders again.
No. I was thinking about it.
Changing the order of anxiety.
I have mine on my phone, so I gotta turn up my brightness because I'm blind.
There you go.
Can I stand on this?
You don't have to. I mean, whatever you want.
Ooh, okay.
Take it away, Cameron.
I started off mine saying, first of all, I want to thank everyone who was able to come this morning to honor my grandfather. Today has been a day I have dreaded for as long as I can remember. Marvin Fand, or Papa Doc, as my cousin's brother and I call him, was not only my grandpa, but he was also like a father to me. Many of you know that growing up, I didn't always have the easiest relationship with my dad. I'm grateful to say that today our relationship is much better, but there was a time when it wasn't. During those years, my grandpa was the man who stepped up. He became my father figure when I needed one the most. Whenever I felt alone because I missed my dad, or when I was hurt or upset after something that happened with my mom, my grandpa was always there for me. No questions asked, no judgment, just love. As a child, I spent every summer with my grandparents in New Jersey, and those summers hold some of my most cherished memories. At first, being sent there felt like a punishment. My mom thought she was sending me away because of my bad behavior, but what she didn't know was that it was the greatest gift of my life. Some of my favorite memories were right there in that backyard. My grandpa had a koi fish pond, and I loved feeding the fish with him. I remember standing beside him, watching the water ripple as they swam up, feeling completely safe just being there with him. In that same backyard were his bees. I was terrified of them, so I would watch from afar while he calmly went to collect honey, never rushing, never afraid. I admired him so much in those moments. I would also spend hours running around the yard pretending I was racing, always convinced I was winning. He would watch me, smiling, let me be a kid, and letting me feel free. And then there were our drives. Some of my favorite times with my grandpa were the hour-long rides to Piermont, New York, just to get the best macaroons and pastries. Even though there were macaroons at the grocery store down the street, it didn't matter how far or how long it took. Those trips were his absolute favorite thing to do with me and put the biggest smile on my face. That big smile was partially because I was finally able to escape my grandma's horrific driving. But I'm sorry. But I also got a break from the classical music for an hour. I still remember being in the car with them on those drives. The music was so bad that I eventually bought AirPods just to survive it. Looking back now, I realize that even my dramatic attempt to escape his music became part of what made those trips so special, and something that I'll always laugh about. From free shopping sprees at Bloomingdale's on my grandpa's card, to endless home-cooked meals made with love by my grandparents, every moment felt special because it was spent with him. When I look back now, so many of my strongest and happiest memories come from that house on Beacon Street and from the man who made it feel like my home. My Papa Doc gave me love, safety, and memories I will carry with me for the rest of my life, and for that I will forever be grateful. Okay. Thank you.
Nicole.
Thank you all for being here today to celebrate and honor the life of my grandpa, Marvin Fand. To most of the world, he was known as Dr. Marvin Fand, but to me, he was Papa Doc, a nickname my older cousin Samantha gave him long ago. Papa Doc met my grandma, Jocelyn, or as I call her, Meme, when I was only 6 months old. And though we aren't related by blood, he is/was, in every definition of the word, my grandpa. I never got the chance to know and meet my biological grandfathers, so Papa Doc had big shoes to fill. And boy, did he. He was the best grandpa I could have ever asked for. Fun, silly, loving, proud, protective. I have the best memories with him and will always hold them close to my heart. He was there for me, and it's hard to imagine a future without him, but it gives me peace knowing that he is no longer in pain. Meme and Papa Doc got married in 1996, and I was lucky enough to be at their wedding. Though at only 2 years old, I unfortunately don't remember much of it. But if it was a party thrown by Papa Doc, then I know it was a blast with tons of good food and, of course, great wine. I know this because for my 1-year-old birthday party, Papa Doc insisted that it was catered by his friends who were incredibly talented chefs, Gaspar and Madeline. What 1-year-old has delicious French food catered at their event? That's just how Papa Doc did it. Papa Doc in Meme's backyard in New Jersey was like a dream come true for a little kid. The bounciest trampoline, veggie and flower gardens to roam through, a big pool to jump into, beehives in the back, poodles to play with, and the best sloppy joes and lobster I've ever had. He had a real love for flowers and food that he passed down to me. He loved food so much that he often accidentally wore a lot of the food he ate. This earned him the nickname of Messy Marvin. He joked that any time we went out to eat, he would mentally add money to the bill to account for the dry cleaning he would inevitably have to pay for. He was a jokester like that, and I loved him for it. In my childhood home, we built an apartment over the garage so that Meme and Papa Doc could come visit us in North Carolina. So many unforgettable memories came out of that time. Papa Doc was fearless in the pursuit of fun, the kind of person who would take a boat out in the intercoastal without knowing how to drive it, simply because a good time was waiting. And when things didn't go as planned, he met it with humor and ease, and a lot of things did not go as planned. He exemplified how to live a life with a carefree, optimistic perspective, and he taught me to never take life too seriously. You can imagine how happy I was when Meme and Papa Doc decided to move from New Jersey to North Carolina in 2020 to be closer to our families. That also meant my wine-drinking partner in crime was nearer than ever. Anytime I would walk in the door, he'd look at me and go, "Nick, what are we drinking?" So I'll raise an invisible glass of wine to Marvin, my Papa Doc, for living a big, beautiful life. I love you and I miss you so much, and you will always live in my heart.
And now Carla's going to share something written by Jackie. Attempt this one, or you want to hold the hand? I will try to hold the mic. Thank you. Oh boy.
Okay, thank you everybody for being here. I drew the short straw, so I had to speak last, so anxiety is a little bit higher than usual, so we're going with it. Marvin's niece, Jackie, couldn't be here today, but she asked that we read something that she wrote. So this is from Jackie. How do I say goodbye to my Uncle Marvin? I don't know how to, except to hold on to the memories of the good times we shared. Marvin was 9 years old when I was born. We grew up in the same house in Paterson, New Jersey, more like brother and sister than niece and uncle. He loved me. I was his first niece and his favorite. Sorry, Sharon, if you're listening. When I was little, I would go upstairs to Grandma and Papa's to have breakfast and lunch. Marvin was always around with his big appetite, enjoying Grandma's cooking. I remember a typical lunch would be a huge plate of mashed potatoes. I remember one time while Grandma had a cake cooling on the porch, Marvin ate the whole thing. Boy, did he get in trouble. He was a foodie, and when he liked something, he was passionate about it. I have memories of Marvin babysitting for me and my brother Mel. He would lock me in my bedroom. Friends would come over, and I would look through the keyhole and spy on them. Many times I found them playing kissing games. I never told on him. Saturdays, he would go to the movies with his friends, and he took me along. How we loved seeing two movies, a newsreel and cartoons. Who can forget my grandfather's old Ford car, the Flyver? A treat for me was to ride in the rumble seat with Marvin standing on the running board as my grandfather drove. Thinking about it now, so dangerous, but so much fun. Bradley Beach was a big part of our lives. Papa bought a house, and all my family stayed there. Marvin was a teenager at the time, gorgeous build, big full head of hair, and very handsome. My cousin Phyllis was there those summers, also a teenager, and they were best friends. How I loved seeing Phyllis's photograph album, all pictures of Marvin at the beach in Bradley. After high school, Marvin went off to Rutgers University. He was the first one in our family to go to college, and we were so proud of him. He pledged ZBT, made wonderful friends, and had a great time. My parents were like second parents to Marvin, and our house was like his. He would invite all his friends over, and his many girlfriends came to feel like my roommates. After college, he went to Tufts Dental School. He met Rusty, who was at Jackson, and they fell in love and got married. They had a memorable wedding in Boston, and I was maid of honor. I fell in love with Boston and decided to go to college there. Marvin was still in dental school when I was a freshman, so I got permission to sign out to his house, and many a weekend I would stay with them to explore Boston. After Tufts, he went into the Army and was stationed in Fort Monmouth, New Jersey. I still use that permission slip for the rest of my college years, even though he wasn't there. Thank you, Marvin. He set up practice in a home office in Dumont, New Jersey, raising his young family, first Ricky, then Donna. Marvin built a fantastic practice. His patients loved him. He never charged my family for services. He was so generous. A few years later, Marvin and Rusty bought a house in Haworth on a big, beautiful property. How he loved gardening. He had hundreds of gorgeous roses and dahlias. So often you would see him on his tractor doing all his own yard work. He shared his love of plants with his father, his beloved sister Faye, and me. Marvin and Faye had a special bond. Faye adored her baby brother, and in many ways she was a mother to him. Marvin grew up the youngest of 5 siblings. My father, Hank, the oldest. That's okay. My father, Hank, the oldest, Meyer, Faye, Leonard, and Marvin. When you think of Marvin, you know how much he loved his animals, especially his favorite dogs. When my family was growing up, going to Uncle Marvin's was so much fun in the summer. There was the pool, a trampoline, a zip line, many dogs, cats, bunnies, goats, and for a short while, a miniature horse. His collection of pigeons doing tricks, even his kamikaze pigeons, and of course the bees. He was a beekeeper and loved sharing his interests with children. Marvin loved fish, always a fish tank in his office, and later on a koi pond in the deck. He had so many interests, so much like Papa. After his first wife, Rusty, passed, Jocelyn came into his life, and a whole world opened up for him. After his first date with this beautiful, exotic woman, he told me he was going to marry her. He fell head over heels in love. This was the beginning of the best years of his life. Jocelyn was a true partner. Together, they built a beautiful home, entertained family and friends. They worked on the garden together. Marvin loved good food and, of course, wine. He took so much pride in Jocelyn, her taste, her style, her warmth, her beauty inside and out, and the love she had for him. Most of all, Jocelyn's family became his to love and enjoy. Marvin has been my cheerleader all my life. He has supported me through the darkest days as a young widow. He has taken pride in my accomplishments and successes. I will miss my loving uncle, a character in so many ways, but loved and adored by his family and friends. Whenever I have a good glass of wine, I will think of him. When I put honey in my tea, I will think of him. When I see a beautiful rose or a gorgeous bouquet of dahlias, I will think of him. Rest in peace, my dear uncle and friend. I love you. Jackie. Okay, so what can I say about Marvin? He was full of life and full of spice. Sometimes I didn't know if I wanted to give him a great big hug or slap him upside the head. But this is what I do know. Marvin was loved, and he loved us, and he loved being a part of this family. I met Marvin over 30 years ago when I was 24 years old. You can all do the math in your heads. My father had passed away a few years prior, and my mother was just starting to date. A friend of hers had been set up on a blind date with Marvin. Unbeknownst to the matchmaker, my mom's friend was already in a relationship, but she hadn't yet gone public. So she decided to pay it forward by setting my mom up on the blind date. When my mom met Marvin, she really liked him. She didn't tell me right away, probably because I had scared away the last boyfriend. Nevertheless, I really liked him. He had me at hello. He didn't stop talking, but I really liked him. Most importantly, I really liked seeing how happy he made my mother. Here's the crazy part of it. My mother had gone to a psychic in New York back when she was a teenager and had first moved from Morocco. The psychic told her, roses and dahlias. I know this to be true because she still has the handwritten notes that she took from that day, and scribbled at the bottom is roses and dahlias. Nearly 30 years later, she met Marvin, who grew hundreds of roses and dahlias in his backyard. Marvin was a Renaissance man. He loved gardening, caring for animals, collecting wine, amongst so many other things. His endless hobbies soon became my mother's passions. Within a year, he and my mom were engaged and moved into my childhood home together while they renovated his house. What started out as a subtle change of decor for his Brady Bunch-styled house soon turned into a complete demolition and rebuilding of their dream home. When I got married, Marvin and my mom graciously offered their backyard for an unforgettable event. As a gift for the wedding guests, we gave out jars of honey that I helped harvest from Marvin's bees in the backyard. And take it from me, that is not a hobby I enjoy. Soon after I was married, Marvin offered me and my now ex-husband an apartment in New Jersey free of charge so we could save up for our own house. A year later, we bought a house just 4 blocks away from him and my mom. I'll never forget the time that I told him that I was stressed out because the yard needed mowing and I didn't know how to use the lawnmower. The next day, I heard rumbling coming from outside, and I went to my front door to find Marvin bobbing up and down on his tractor, driving 4 blocks down the road. Now, I know that's commonplace here in North Carolina, but in Bergen County, New Jersey, you don't see that every day. Marvin was a character. He loved to regale us with stories of his life, from his college days to life in the Army to his work as a forensic dentist for the Bergen County Bureau of Criminal Investigation. Thanks in part to Marvin's identification of dental impressions, the notorious Times Square Ripper was apprehended. Ironically, 20 years later, law enforcement was able to garner more information about additional victims by trading Marvin's dental work for confessions. Marvin finally closed his private dental practice and retired at the age of 82. He said it was because all his patients had died. That was the only reason he was willing to retire. One of my favorite Marvin stories centered around the time he found marijuana in his then teenage son Ricky's bedroom. Being the avid horticulturist that he was, he wondered if he could propagate the seeds. Before long, he had an expansive crop, and word got out around town. One day, he was visited by the chief of police in Hallworth, who said, "Doc, get rid of it before we come back with a warrant." Without hesitation, Marvin threw it all away. Although he never smoked any, he took great pride in knowing he could grow enough weed to shake up the town. And that was Marvin, always a character, a perpetual storyteller. But he was so much more than that. He was a beloved husband, father, and friend to so many, and he was a cherished grandfather to 4 biological grandchildren, Samantha, Jesse, Travis, and Kimberly. Samantha, the firstborn, lovingly named Papa Doc, or as my son Gavin called him when he was little, Pop the Dot. Papa Doc was the only grandfather that my children Cameron and Gavin knew, and he was the only grandfather to my nieces Nicole and Courtney, as they just said. Whether he was playing in the pool with Cameron or searching for golf balls with Gavin, Marvin always left a lasting impression and was always up for an adventure. When I think of Marvin, I will picture him with a glass of wine in one hand, holding his favorite daughter in the other, and that's his little dog, Millie. So I stand before you today with tears in my eyes, but my grief is not for Marvin. He lived a long, beautiful life that any of us would have loved to have lived. My grief is for my mother, who lost her partner in life. My sadness is for the grandchildren who had so many more memories to make. May we honor the positive impact that Marvin has brought to this world. May our recollection of his life bring comfort and inspiration to those who knew him. And as we say in Judaism, may his memory be for a blessing.
Noticed a lot of themes there too. And unfortunately, as I started off by saying, I did not have the privilege of knowing Papa, let's call him Dot. I like that. There's nothing, there's the privilege of naming the grandparent, and then you get to rename them too sometimes with things like that, right? But I came to know him the way Jews have always known each other, and that is through sharing memory. So thank you for sharing those beautiful, beautiful memories today. The stories, through the way a person's presence lingers even after they've gone. And from the stories shared, one thing becomes very clear, and that's that he was unforgettable. I heard that he was the life of the party, an iconoclast. Certainly, that's a great word for a person like him, in the best sense of the word. Whether I heard about the kamikaze pigeons and the goats and the dogs and the cats and the bees, I think every single person mentioned the bees today. He took on hobbies that were wild and unexpected, but completely his own. And then I think it's especially beautiful that sounds like Jocelyn, you also took part in the wild as well. But he didn't just move through the world, it seems. It seems that he engaged it and experimented with it and delighted in it and had a joyous defiance in the way that he lived, which was a refusal to be small or ordinary in any way. So in Jewish life, Marvin reminds me of the famous King David. Not when he was the polished king of the portraits and winning all of the wars, but the human David of the Psalms, who was passionate and complicated, at times demanding, overflowing with life. And David knew loss, and David knew turmoil early in his life, just as Marvin did. And yet, David sang. He sang the entire book of Psalms. He danced. He didn't care who was watching, but he danced. And he built a life of love and meaning. And that, too, was Marvin's legacy. He lived through difficult times, he experienced profound losses, and he did not let that harden him. And instead, he built. He built something beautiful. He built a life full of curiosity and laughter, a life rooted in love for family and for animals and for the sheer experience of being alive. And as a grandfather, he was, I heard, fun-loving, and sounds like he was really cool. And the kind of presence children remember, not just with affection, but with just pure joy. He was vibrant. He showed those around him it's possible to hold grief and choose joy, to know loss, but to build with abundance and to face the world honestly and still delight in everything that it has to offer. So may Marvin's memory eternally be for a blessing, not only as something to be remembered, but as something to be emulated and lived. May his love of life, his curiosity, and his joy continue to echo in the lives of all who loved him and all who will get to know him through memory. God, full of mercy, who dwells on high, grant perfect rest on the wings of your divine presence in the lofty heights of the holy and pure, who shine like the radiance of heavens to the soul of Marvin Fand, who is gone to his eternal rest. Master of mercy, shelter him under the cover of your wings. Let his soul be bound up in the bonds of life. The Lord is his inheritance. May he rest in peace. And let us say Amen. As I chant that now in Hebrew, El Malei Rachamim, Shochen Bameramim, Hamatzeh Menucha Nechuna, Tachat Kanfei HaShechina, B'malot Kedoshim HaTorim, Kezohar Kemas Hirim, Lenishmat Moshe Meir ben Shmuel, Shlach Lulamo Began Eden's Menuchato, Ana Bal Rachamim, Yasiretu Baseter Kanfav LaOlamim, V'yitzror b'tzrachayim et nishmato, Adonai hu nachalato, v'yanuach v'shalom, amishkavo v'namar, Amen. I found a poem by Mary Oliver. I always like to read some kind of reading, some kind of English reading. It's called When Death Comes, and it seems like it covers at least some of the ways that Marvin lived. When death comes, Mary Oliver. When death comes like the hungry, barren autumn, when death comes and takes all the bright coins from his purse to buy me and snaps the purse shut, when death comes like the pox, when death comes like an iceberg between the shoulder blades, I want to step through the door full of curiosity, wondering, what is it going to be like, that cottage of darkness? And therefore I took upon everything as a brotherhood and a sisterhood, and I look upon time as no more than an idea, and I consider eternity another possibility. And I think of each life as a flower as common as a field daisy, and as singular, and each name a comfortable music in the mouth, tending as all music does towards silence, and each body a lion of courage, and something precious to the earth. When it's over, I want to say, all my life, I was married to amazement. I was the groom taking the world into my arms. When it's over, I don't want to wonder if I made of my life something particular and real. I don't want to find myself sighing and frightened or full of argument. I don't want to end up simply having visited this world. And we know that Marvin didn't simply visit this world. He made it all a world full of amazement. So if you reach either behind you or in front of you are mourners. You can find Mourner's Kaddish on page 30. Some people might have it memorized in their heart, and that is all right. It's our book that says Sidor Lev Shalem. On page 30, you will find that's, why don't you share with Cameron, Gavin? Yes, the smaller one, not the big one. This, yeah, or you could share with ones next to you. So Mourner's Cottage can be found on page 30. So I invite our primary mourners, if they're able to please rise as they say Mourner's Cottage. And I'll say it along with you. And I invite the rest of our loved ones to rise along with you so you do not have to be alone in your mourning. Yit Gadal ve'yit Gadash Shemei Rabbah Be'alma Divera Kirute Ve'amlich Malchute B'hayechon U'v'yomechon U'b'chaye Dechol Beit Yisrael Bagala Uvizman Kari V'imru Amen Yehe Shmei Rabbah Mevarach Leolam U'alme Amaya Yit Barach V'yish Tabach V'yit Pa'ar V'yit Romam V'yit Naseh V'yit Hadar V'yit Ale V'yit Halal Shmei Dekudesha Brichu Le'elam Min Kol Birchata V'shirata Tushbechata V'nechemata Damiran Be'alma V'imru Amen Yehe Shlama Rabbah Min Shemaya V'chaim Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'imru Amen Osei Shalom B'mramav Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'imru Amen. May his memory eternally be for a blessing. Trying to figure out the best way to do our receiving line in this room. If you're able to, if you could have